I I want to talk a little bit about our upcoming course in Ayurvedic pulse diagnosis, Nadi Nidana. Uh, the subject of pulse diagnosis is very important in Ayurveda. It's very difficult for people to accurately discern the doshas without the technique of pulse diagnosis. Years ago, I had the opportunity to participate in a yoga teacher training program that was teaching some Ayurveda. And their Ayurveda teachers, when I came into the program, I noticed were inaccurately discerning the doshas for the different students. When we take one of these at-home tests, online tests, the questionnaire where you fill it out, is your hair dark color? Are you overweight or thin? People are getting it wrong. Um, what I noticed in those days with the untrained students, they were getting it wrong 80% of the times. With the people who had been trained in Ayurveda but who didn't have knowledge of the pulse diagnosis, they were getting it wrong about 50% of the time. So my teacher of Ayurveda, who has passed now, passed from his body now, a few years back, he was trained by Dr. Vasant Lad in pulse diagnosis when he first studied Ayurveda years ago. He studied a bit in India as well after this and studied with other teachers. Dr. Lad is a siddha. He's got an amazing ability. He reads the pulse and he'll say, "Oh, you broke your leg when you were a child. Oh, your mother died when you were 16. You're pregnant. It will be a boy." This kind of thing. You have a kidney stone. Amazing things he'll find reading the pulse. And he teaches a very complex system of pulse diagnosis, which has 7 levels to the pulse, and it can help you to discern all sorts of things. And it's so subtle that you can take someone else's pulse distantly through your own pulse. It's energetic. You have to be very mystically aware. And my teacher was very spiritual, very dedicated to his spiritual practice for 40 years. He was chanting and meditating for hours, 2 or 4 hours every single day. Yet this subtle pulse diagnosis, which Dr. Lad taught, was too subtle for him to pick up on. He was not able in that 40 years of dedicated spiritual practice to awaken the subtle awareness required to do this very subtle pulse diagnosis. And so that's one difficulty with that technique being taught by there have been other teachers teaching like this advanced. I don't want to put it on any particular person like this, but so my teacher had the opportunity to study a simpler pulse diagnosis technique from actually a doctor of Tibetan medicine. He was one of the first Tibetan medicine doctors to come from Tibet to teach Tibetan medicine in the West. His name was Dr. Lapsang Rapge. Um, and he was also a Tibetan Lama. The Tibetan medicine is very similar to Ayurveda. It has similar doshas and concepts like this. And so this technique is very much more gross. It's not so subtle. It deals with the physical pulse and the speed of it and the qualities of it. And it's something that anybody can learn. It does require a bit of practice. And so for the sake of healing practitioners, those who are practicing yoga and teaching a little bit of Ayurveda, those who are practicing Ayurveda, talking about Ayurveda, teaching about Ayurveda in whatever capacity, this class is for them to help them get down some basic qualities of pulse diagnosis that anybody can learn with a little practice. We should expect you need to practice a great deal. These people should be dedicated and they need to find a lot of bodies to practice on, a lot of people, your friends, your clients, your family, your associates. You need to ask them in every opportunity. Really, it's a brief class, 5 1-hour classes, and the cost is donation based because we want to impress the notion that Ayurveda is a spiritual science, that we can't charge money for this. We need to do it in a more traditional way to pass on the spiritual wisdom, which is priceless, We do this free of cost, and then there's no selfish motivation for the teacher, and the students can give what they can afford. Money should not be a barrier for people in the study of such spiritual sciences like this. So to help to improve people's understanding and ability to practice and teach the Ayurveda, we're offering this important offering for people. If you can come and physically be here, it will be even better. If not, we'll work with you the best we can in Zoom calls. We'll take people's questions and we'll try to get people practicing. And so please join us if you have interest in this subject. Om.